That's me.
Innocent of combat.
Many of them. They were risking their lives to save the lives of others.
Thank you, Doctor.
Iraqi forces still were weapons and ammunition in your hospital.
Yes, I was aware of it. It was common knowledge.
Wasn't that a violation of the Geneva Conventions?
Objection. The doctor is not a legal authority, nor is the Iraqi army on trial here. Sustained.
It's a medical professional. No.
They were there to protect us from American and British aggressors.
That's when you evacuated most of your patients. But you chose to remain, knowing that that was likely.
There were patients still there. We had no choice but to stay.
Like your
Hey,
army.
Leslie.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Hi.
Hi. I was just gonna let you know you're not muted, and I think you have the television on. Or you've got a lot of people carrying on at the house. No, thanks.
Hey, Michelle.
Oh, yes, I had muted myself. Yes.
Yeah, next time, could you put an ID and a passcode in also?
ID and passcode.
Because all
Right.
you did was put in the link.
Okay, you know what? I may have cut that off. They send such long, it's like almost a full page, and I usually take out a lot of the information, but I think I took too much out this time. Sure, I'll make a note of that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna give and wait for another minute or two because people are still signing on. Julia, I'm glad you got my email this morning. Sorry, I didn't see yours last night.
No problem.
Let's see, I was expecting Jim, so we'll wait another minute. And I think Tony, I didn't hear that he couldn't come. Right, well, it's 9:32. We have a lot of guests, and I thank you all for coming. That's wonderful. I've only got a couple of actual members, so maybe we'll just wait on the minutes. And actually, this is a good time to talk to those of you who are here. I wanted to ask you about our next meeting. I have to attend a training. It's in, I should have written the date. It's May, I forgot what it is, like 18. I have a training for sustainable CT and equity training to attend from 9 to 1 that morning. So I was wondering if we might want to try either moving the meeting to the afternoon or evening or a different day. And I think I want to just explore maybe trying an evening. I did hear from Lisa, she's not going to be able to make it. I think it's a challenging time, and I don't know. Have you talked in the past, Dan, about the best time for the meeting and being able to get people to attend?
I don't know that we've ever fully explored it. We were the second, you've already moved it once, so it was the second Tuesday, all right, of every month, and it was always at the same time. So the answer to your question is I certainly did not explore evening. I also might just point out that I find evening to also then put us in conflict with other evening meetings.
Yeah, there are a lot.
Which meant that many of the members who could make it in the morning would be unavailable because they were in their own meeting or another meeting or something. So
Right, yeah, no, we would have to
Enough,
find
yeah.
an evening that was open, which is a challenge. I was trying to schedule some, a public
What
forum.
about mid to late afternoon?
Late afternoon, would that work for you,
Mid to
Fran?
late afternoon.
I know,
Did you
I
mean
think that
something
works
like
better
5
for
o'clock?
Lisa. Dan?
Did you mean something, Fran, did you mean something like 5 or 5:30?
No, I mean, actually, I was thinking in the 3 to 5 range.
Okay. So maybe, but would 5 o'clock work? Or
5
that's the end of
For
it?
me, 5 o'clock would be fine too. I mean, I know Lisa seems to do better with afternoon meetings. than
Yes.
she does with morning meetings, but
Yeah,
I can't speak for other people.
So why don't
Wayne?
you try the third Wednesday or the third Tuesday, which you've already moved it to, at 5 o'clock instead of at 9:30?
okay, Wayne is here. He's also a member, and I just want to see, you're usually faithfully in attendance. Would that work for you as well, Wayne?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm overextended as it is, so it's like whatever I can attend when I can attend. I mean, at least I work at home, so that helps.
Right, okay. So, do we prefer 5 or do we want to try the 3 to 5 somewhere in the late afternoon? 5, Dan, you thought? That-
5, well, I took that from Fran. So if Fran can do 5 o'clock, let's do it.
Okay, all right, so we'll move next meeting to 5 o'clock and we'll see if we get more members in attendance because attendance has been a challenge. Val did reach out to me and say that she's got too much on her plate and she would like to step back from the EDC. So we can maybe talk to the WBA and see if there are other members that they would like to ask. I think Liz, whose last name is escaping me from 5 Janes, has been very involved with a lot of the WBA activities, so she might be interested in stepping in. And 5 o'clock might work for her because the store will be closing shortly. So we'll try 5 o'clock next month, and I will make sure I get that out and posted so that everybody is aware of that move, and we'll see if that works better and see if the timing if we can get a few more people in attendance. All right. I think with no more than 3 people. Well, did anyone have issues with the minutes from the last month from our March 16 meeting? No? Okay.
No.
All right. I'm going to go quickly, since we have some other stuff to talk about. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on all of the things that I usually report on that I'm working on. Just a few highlights. For the affordable housing, the next public forum will probably be June 3rd. I haven't set that yet, but that's a date that we're kind of looking at. So just to keep that in mind. Sustainable CT, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Earth Day event that we have helped put together for this coming Saturday, the 24th, from 10 to 1. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring this to the EDC is this is the second time that I've helped coordinate an event, which event planning wasn't maybe something we had originally thought I would be involved in. But what we're doing, or what I have done is brought together a lot of our nonprofits, and working with the nonprofits to help them be successful is definitely part of the mission of the EDC, because they bring so much to our community. So this Saturday, out in front of Town Hall, we're going to have the Environmental Council will be there, Lake Warmug Association, Lake Warmug Task Force, Steep Rock, the Garden Club, Chippewa Agriscience, the Conservation Commission, myself with Economic Development, and the Sustainability Committee. So we're bringing all of these organizations together to work together, to communicate, and to promote the work that they do. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that, and just sort of how communicating with the different organizations has become something that I have been doing. A little update on the sidewalks. So the New Preston plan has been a real challenge. The DOT did not approve part of the plan that we wanted to do in order to get the sidewalk. The irony here is just so frustrating to me. We wanted to make it safer and put in ADA compliant sidewalks, but in order to do that, we had to push a drain into the state right of way, and they said no because of plowing or the shoulder. So part of it was denied, but we're still going to move forward with the part of the sidewalk from Church Street to New Preston Hill, which was the biggest part of the project. So it's going from up at the top by DK Schulman and Sweets, all the way down to where New Preston Kitchen Goods used to be. And there's drainage issues and sidewalk issues. And that part is now is going to design. So I have been in contact with the New Preston businesses, but I need to give them sort of the update. We were waiting for the state to get back to us. And we have no timing yet because now there's bidding and design. And so that project has been moved. The paving, however, is set to go forward in May. So we will, we'll keep our eyes on that. The other sidewalk project, the Titus Block
Before
Depot.
you go there,
Yeah.
Michelle, how long is the state going to tie up New Preston and all the way back to, let's say, back to the lake? Did they give you any idea how long that's going to take?
Yeah. So what they explained is they're gonna pave 45 from 202 all the way up to Warren to the intersection.
Right.
That up there. They said the whole thing should take them 4 to 5 days. However, they will only be in front of the stores with the machinery for a couple of hours twice. So what they do is they go one direction
Okay.
and then they come back. And so it depends on which side they start on. They were planning on starting down at 202, but depending on whether the drains are ready or not. So the businesses will never be closed, but for a couple hours on the way up. So probably at the beginning of the week, like on Monday or Tuesday, it'll be noisy and the machinery will be there.
Right.
And then they'll move along and then they'll come back
Are
probably.
they're not
Others.
gonna do Main Street?
They are not. That is a
Okay.
town road.
Okay,
So Main Street will always be fine. All of the other accesses, yeah. And
Okay.
it will be passable, but it'll be one lane traffic. So it'll be a challenge, you know,
got it.
it'll be inconvenient.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, good question. So we're going to slowly move forward with the Titus block. That the survey is still being completed, but the whole concept plan for the traffic study and the sidewalks and the parking and all of that is in process, just moving forward kind of slowly. And we're focusing on New Preston really right now, because that is imminent and in process. So I'll keep you
So
posted.
that was approved and the consultants are coming in to do this review?
For Titus,
Yeah,
so we got a bid. I don't think the selectmen have formally accepted it yet.
Got
So
it.
I need to just follow up on that.
okay, fine. Thank you.
Sure. Moving on, the new homeowners mailings, we had 10 new homes in March. Those letters will go out soon. That's a little bit of an uptick from the last 2 months, but still down from the height of the COVID sales. And the last thing I just wanted to quick say is that I did do this last month, walked around and tested the Wi-Fi one last time before the leaves come out. And we definitely have a dead zone in the depot
Yes.
between Marty's and Judy Black, that area, which is really important. It's become sort of a new hub over on that side of the depot, especially on the weekends with the farmers markets and things happening, people walking between the plaza area and Marty's. So I'm going to reach out to Jay. He's been on vacation, but to see if we can get some repeaters and figure that out. It's a little challenging because there is a repeater on the Judy Black Park, but it's on the building facing the plaza. So I don't know, we'll have to figure out the best way to get over in that zone. Has anyone else noticed dead zones? Fran?
Yeah, I mean, the Hickory Stick, I mean, the 2 Green Hill Road is, I mean, I think it may have been intended to be a dead zone in the first place. I mean, I'm not sure it was one of the places that was considered to be an active part of it, but it has never been.
I got service right in front of the Hickory Stick.
Did you really?
I did, and there is a repeater on the supply. So there's a beam going from Town
Okay,
Hall.
I mean, frequently we have not.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
I mean, I'll check again, but
Well, and it's
in
a
terms of
little
what you're
bit.
talking about on the weekends between Marty's and Judy Black, I mean, obviously the 2 Green Hill group of businesses also feeds into the same thing.
Right. So right now there's one. So it's coming from Town Hall to the supply and from the supply over to the pantry. So as you're walking away from the pantry towards the parking, through the parking lot, you still get service right up until about the edge of the buildings. And I think by you, Fran, I was getting pretty decent coverage between you and the supply. But as soon as I started walking towards like National Iron Bank, I wasn't, it would kind of come in and out, and I wasn't sure at that point I don't know where on the supply it is. I think it's up in a window and I couldn't see it. So we'll have to, we'll explore that.
It's not reliable in the area. I mean, so,
Okay.
It's not a comfortable thing to say. And if you walk outside the door, you can't just say, well, just turn 2 degrees left. And
Right.
if you turn 2 degrees right, you have a problem.
Did you, Michelle, did you by any chance test up at GW?
It does not go that far. And
Okay. There
it's
has
coming
only,
off the supply. I'm trying to figure out, I wouldn't expect it to get much past KMR Arts, but I could test that again.
well, the question would be, how do we get it up there so that people who are sitting in the parking lot would have access to it? Because they draw heavily, and the basic idea would be to then provide them with information about how to get to the Hickory Stick.
Correct. I agree. So I will touch base with Jay and see how much funding is still left from the original project, and to start looking at, getting some of these repeaters online. Because right now it's really good in the plaza, really good over by the pantry, and a few spots from the supply moving out, but you kind of lose it in places. So we'll have to see, where we need to get some repeaters there. Thank you, Dan and Fran. I'll touch base
Sure.
with Jay. I'll email him on that.
Yeah, Michelle, I can give you a couple tips to shorten your search here.
Yeah.
There are basically two ways that you can deal with these, gaps in coverage. One, of course, is to install some more repeaters, which of course would involve some money, although repeaters aren't really expensive. And that might be a budgetary matter. The other is to engage in what we call beam forming. And basically that just means with better aiming the stuff that we already have to get better coverage. And that should probably be covered under the services that we already contracted. I mean, anybody who installs a mesh system of any kind realizes that they're going to have to come back and tweak it a bit. So some of these issues may be addressed by simply, basically aiming the signals a little better and just tweaking the areas of coverage. And that should probably be included in what we already paid for.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I think the installation was, I think Jay was working with the people at Advance. So they, the tech who do a lot of tech for us. So I'm sure, I know I've seen them out here several times working on things. Part of the challenge, it isn't the cost of the repeater. It's getting the electricity and the wiring, and then the people in the building wanting it to be aesthetically pleasing. So the park's repeater is not necessarily ideally located, but it's aesthetically hidden. So, if you're sitting at the picnic table right on the side of the building, it's perfect, but it's not aimed, you can't see it from the front because there's no eave for them to kind of tuck it up under, because it does go on the outside. So,
understood. Yeah, so
it's a challenge.
It is, and but this is a challenge that these folks deal with all the time. So
yeah. So
don't be afraid to ask them to aim it differently.
I won't.
That's what they do.
Hopefully, maybe as technology improves, they can get smaller and less obvious, and we'll see. They're pretty small already.
They are.
So I will follow up with that and keep you all posted on that. Okay, I think that was it about the things I wanted to report on that I had. Oh, no, one more thing. We hosted an Arts Council meeting, April 12th. The selectmen came to me and asked if I would help coordinate getting together an Arts Council of some form. And since working with the arts community had been one of my goals, for next year, I said, well, sure, we can get that started now. We had a really interesting conversation. It went, a little bit all over the place, which I expected, but I really wanted to hear from the people in the arts community what they thought this council could look like and what its purpose would be. We had 16 people in attendance, so that was really great. Dan was there and Joanne Torty, which was wonderful because they shared some of the history of having tried this a few years back. And there was enthusiasm for meeting again next month, which I have to remember to schedule a date for that. So I will keep you posted. They talked about a mission, and we'll see if this turns in what this turns into, whether this becomes sort of an arts council made up of people from the arts, or a committee of the town, or we'll see where it heads. But it was a good conversation, and I'm hoping that by bringing the arts, all of the different arts people together, we will be able to see some collaboration and cross promotion, and just helping everybody do more. So I'll let you know about this. Anyone have questions about that? No.
I have a related question, but independent of the Arts Council, which is SHAG is going up, as you have pointed out, in August, I believe, out at the Ingracia property, right?
Yes. We should tell people that stands for Spring Hill Arts Gathering.
I was about to, and thank you.
Sure.
The question that I have is, do you know anything about it at this juncture?
Well, I met with Stephanie and Dana when they were still in their brainstorming. Shoot, I have a one pager on it somewhere here on my desk. Sorry. Well, I don't see it at the moment, but what they want it to be open to the community. They're planning to bring in musicians, performers. I'm pretty sure Pilabolus is slated to dance at some point. And they just want it to be a really nice community event for.
Do you have a sense that this is first of?
First what?
First of. This is the first
Oh,
of.
I got the feeling that they definitely want to continue. Yes.
Okay, because it's pretty apparent from who they are bringing in to get them organized that this is going to be handled in a very professional way. And I haven't had a chance to find much of the information, but thank you. You've answered my question.
Sure. Yeah, I know. I've been kind of after them because of the, wanting to get the summer information out there. And so,
well, as you know, it's going to be the front page article of the newsletter.
Right. And they have, so I was catching them before their website was live and before they had their, here we go, before they had their logo or anything. So their mission, so they gave me a little one page, and it said the mission is to produce public programs that connect artists with nurture diverse perspectives through creative collaborations and conversations, and share abundance within the Washington CT community. Their goal is to develop, market, and deliver a multi-day outdoor, semi-enclosed cultural programming during summer 2021, culminating in the Washington Town Party, name to be determined, celebrating community heroes.
Got it.
So,
okay.
And their partners are ASAP, the library, Pilabolus, Pride in the Hills, and a whole bunch of some other organizations. So
Okay.
Similar idea, I think. And I think they're going to see how it goes, but I think the intent was for it to be an annual event. Good question. And it should be, yeah, quite a large, exciting
Do you
event
have
in
the
Washington.
date? Do you have the date there?
The dates are July 29 and 30, 31, August 1st. So those are four. So it's a Thursday through Sunday on the first weekend. And then August 6, 7, 8, Friday through Sunday.
Okay. All right.
So the last weekend of July, first weekend of August.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Sure. All right, next on the agenda, we have new business. And this is, or the new business highlight. I just wanted to talk a couple of things that are going on. I forgot to mention publicly, I had it in my notes, that that a dermatologist is buying the building where the owl is now, and that the owl will be staying, I've spoken with the owners over at the owl, and they actually helped find this buyer. So they're working very much in conjunction with each other. So that's exciting. In working with Discover Litchfield Hills and with Julia on the services directory, we've been kind of just touching base and figuring out the accuracy of our business listings. And I'm sad to say that Ride has closed, which was the barn over in the Woodville area near the Montessori school, where a cycling business. And also I did notice just this weekend, I haven't spoken with anyone, I looked it up online, that the Booth property is for sale. So the property that is on 47 where the murals are. So we'll just need to keep an eye on that. It is a commercially zoned space. I have to see if it's got is that, Wayne, you would probably know, is that a special permit or is it because it's outside the actual business district, I believe?
It's inside.
It's inside the business district? It goes
Yes.
out that far? Okay. I wasn't sure if they had a special permit or not. So it's a commercially zoned piece of property. So
And it, as you may know, it's been available for sale. I don't know that it's been promoted for sale, but it's been available for sale for years.
yeah.
Right.
Well, there's a sign on it now. So
Right.
I'm guessing that maybe
There's a sign posted on the property itself.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I haven't been out that way in a little while, so I didn't realize that. Have you
Yeah.
talked to? Have you
No,
talked-
she hasn't responded to me. So, and I've been hesitant to push, but now that I saw the sign go up, I was thinking I might try again. I'll try calling this time instead of emailing just to see.
Okay, and I'd be glad to help there if I can.
Okay. I also just wanted to say that I have spoken with a friend of mine who's a restaurant consultant who works mostly in New York City, but is here now working from home, to just take a look at the Hidden Valley eatery space and to plant the seed if he hears of anybody. So we're still trying to find somebody interested in that restaurant. And if anybody has any other updates on
I think
businesses.
I may be able to add just one little piece of information to Hidden Valley.
Yeah.
They came within of very close to selling it to somebody in Woodbury. The issue that they are encountering is that the Wyants are not interested in evening meals, and they are not interested in a bar, both of which are thought in the case of most restaurateurs to be an important element. So what they're fundamentally, if you're out helping search for, what they're looking for is breakfast and lunch and no alcohol.
Well, I think it was the alcohol. I did speak with Tammy about their concerns, and I'll have to follow up with her because I'm not sure that they're as against dinner as they were the alcohol and the whole bar kind of thing. So
And also,
I'll follow up.
And also when it closes. The
Right.
issue for Woodbury was they wanted a bar and they wanted to close it at 11. We proposed then to the Wyants that we perhaps would do 11 only for Thursday or Friday, Saturday. Okay, and that didn't seem to take them home yet, or that didn't seem to take them far enough.
Okay. So the timing was also a concern.
If you're talking to consultants, you might just keep this information kind of in the background, but share it with them to the extent that you think it would help advance it.
I did. Yeah, I said that they're really looking for a breakfast, lunch, and
Oh,
you know,
okay.
I explained what had kind of turned them off to the Woodbury one, but I do need to clarify if dinner would be okay if they closed earlier. Let's say they closed at 8 or 9, and didn't serve alcohol. That I don't know, so I'll clear that up.
Well, that's exactly what the model was, that you had for Hidden Valley. That would be perfect, as I
Right.
understand it.
Yeah, they did dinners infrequently, but on occasion. So we'll have to look, right?
They
They
did
weren't
it-
open for dinner every night, were they?
No, they were open, but end of week,
Okay,
Thursday through Saturday.
okay. Yep. So good to know. So we'll just put the feelers out there and try to let people know that that is available. Okay, so any other updates on businesses coming or going that we've heard of? No? All right. I want to move on to something. I'm going to actually share my screen. What I have done is start putting together a communications plan. Can you all see this? Right, the communications plan, yeah. And I really, really want everyone's input on this, because all I did was try to write down what we're already doing. I just really want to focus our efforts. I think communication is and has been one of our main goals to promote our town inside and out. But I haven't been able to put my hands on, looking through all the data that we have on the website, like the actual plan, because it's evolved and it's morphed. So I wanted to bring it back to the goals, really think about what we're trying to do and look at the strategies we're using, and think, just think about if there are other strategies. So, and I will share this with everyone after. I was going to share it before, and then I thought we should probably talk about it, because I didn't want anyone to think that this was not a work in progress. Okay. So I first sort of just explained what the plan is for. And I put the goals into 2 major categories: internal and external communications. Obviously, external being to promote Washington to the outside world, for multiple purposes, for our businesses, and to promote us as a place to move to. And then internal are obviously focused on residents, also promoting our businesses and our nonprofits and our events and the activities of our government, and just community engagement, I would say. So let's just take a look. So here are the external goals, and I pulled a lot of this from the contract that we have with Sandor Max. I'm so glad Julia was able to join us this morning. And then I added a few other things that we've been doing outside of that, working with the Discover Litchfield Hills, which Lisa's not here, but I wanted to thank the WBA. They did send out a message. I'm going to continue to push to get our all of our businesses listed there. It's the website's growing pretty nicely and is starting to see an increase in traffic. So I think that'll be a good tool moving forward. So the external goals here, we can just look at them briefly. Promoting on CT Visit, obviously, which has a wide reach. Discover Litchfield Hills, which has sort of a more regional reach. Pitching stories to other major outlets, which is something that Julia does, and every now and then a big one will come through, which is exciting. Although CT Visit and the Tourism Council picks up the articles and the blog posts that Julia and her team write all the time. We have the monthly newsletter that Sandor Max does about the events, and they have a growing list that we follow. Their social media, that's another thing that Sandor Max does for us, posting on Facebook and Instagram, and they're also growing those lists. And then I just put at the bottom, distribute the passport business guide and explore cards. I've been doing that in town, bringing them around to the different businesses. But I count that as an external because we're putting them out there to really help the visitor once they get here, find their way around, which is the point of the Wi-Fi as well in the depot, the point of the QR code. I guess I could have put those there too, but in order to help visitors once they get here, find their way around. So my question to all of you, and I know you're just seeing this, we can talk about it again next month, but did I miss anything? And are there things that we should add that we think we should be working on? Nothing coming to mind? Okay.
Well, I think you've covered a good bit of what we're currently doing. So this is a very it's a very nice list in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Well, think about it. If we think of things, I will email this out to everyone and I will post it on the website, and we can just continue to think about either things that we're already doing that I forgot to list or things to move forward, because we don't want to stagnate. Like, you know, if we're already doing all these and we're doing many of them very well, and we measure that by the growth of the website and the growth of the social media followers. So I think those are things that we should definitely celebrate. But it is it's the majority of our budget and a lot of time spent. So I just feel like we really want to outline what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. So I should probably even maybe at some point flush this out and we can put goals and some of the metrics on there. But all right, so we'll go then to the internal goal, which is communicating within Washington with our residents. This is where we talk about the print newsletter that we send out quarterly. The events calendar on Explore is for internal and external. I think it's used just as much, if not more, by people who live here, which is great because we've always wanted to have one central place where everyone goes for their activities. I did put in the selectmen's email a flyer to promote, just an electronic card to promote the Explore calendar, but I think we should think about that because we need to continually remind our residents that that's the place to go. We do that is in the new member or the welcome letters, which is the next two down, that I send to every new person that moves here. I direct them to the website and have them sign up for the newsletter and the events calendar, but we definitely are missing people. So we can continue to think about how to reach more people. And maybe it's time to do a postcard mailing just to promote Explore. It's worth thinking about. Anyway, the next one, utilize the selectmen's weekly email and help grow the list. That's something that I put something in almost every week promoting something going on in town government or an event. I help different organizations make flyers to put in there, and that the welcome letters, I've been getting a lot of people signing up for that email list. So I'll have to ask Jeff. We were around the 2,000 mark on that and had seen a lot of growth over this last year. So that's exciting. I think we can continue to utilize that. I think 2,000 is great, but we have 3,500 residents, so there's clearly room for improvement. And then we also
Just one thought on that. Remember that if there's a single computer in the household, but there's two people, okay, the number you want to count is the number of computers, not the number of people.
That's a good point. It's
Okay.
interesting because I know like for myself, both my house, we each have each email in our household is signed up, but households, we have what, 2,400 households. So that's, if you think of it in that term.
that is part of the reason why we produced the print version, was to guarantee that regardless of your access to or comfort level with online services or online, you would know what was going on in town. And that supplemented then what was done on the social media side, which is what Sandor Max essentially manages, okay, which allowed it not only to cover the community for those who have a computer and are comfortable with it, but also to extend beyond that. Now, one of the things you may want to try to find out from the town social media is what their coverage is. So when somebody comes in, who is using the town website? And to what degree does the town website satisfy, or what part of the community is satisfied by the town website?
That's good. And I did, it's a couple lines down, work with the town to maintain and improve the municipal website. So to
Yeah.
answer your first question, the town does not have social media. If Jim has a message he wants to send out, he sends it to Julia and Explore. So Explore is
Okay.
our social media. And I think that's fine. I don't think we need to create more places for people to have to check. You know, I think that's good. But I will jump down to the municipal website. I have been working, we actually, we hired Julia to do a redo of the front page at the beginning of COVID, just to get urgent information there, because that is the source for municipal information. And I want to continue to work with the town to improve the town website to make sure that it's kept up to date and useful. It is where you go to find the agendas and the Zoom links. And it is where, if you move to town and you want to figure out how to get a trash sticker, or you want to put a deck on your house, you got to get a hold of land use. I mean, the town website is very useful and it's very important. It's an important tool in communicating. We don't want all that stuff cluttering up Explore. Explore is beautiful. It is to bring visitors here and to promote the businesses. And I think the municipal site is very dysfunctional and it needs to be up to date. I should mention, I forgot I was going to in my report, that I have been working on the EDC's the page on the town website. I added a tab. I forget what I called it, something like opening a business in Washington, and has links to the forms that you need with the town clerk and the assessor, helpful links for some of the like small business association, getting registered or getting advice. So it's not an exhaustive list, but it's a place to start. So I have been working on the EDC site, putting some of the reports that have been produced, some of the Sandor Max ones that look at our website traffic, I've posted up there. So please take a look and see if you think I'm missing things, or there are a couple things that, Dan, I was going to ask you about. There are a couple things on there that I think might be outdated and may no longer be applicable. So we can take a look and just keep that up to date and fresh.
Okay. Let me know how I can help.
Okay, I will. Welcome letter. Oh, and then just working with the WBA, promoting community events and town initiatives is another, that's an internal kind of coordination communication. So does anyone have any other, I did not put in here our kiosk idea that we've been talking about. We put it in as a capital request for the next budget. We still haven't figured out exactly where we would want it or exactly what it should be, but everybody likes the idea. So I think we'll continue to talk about the best way to move forward on a sort of a welcome kiosk that helps people find their way around. Yeah, so maybe I should just add that as a goal. Any other things that people feel like we should add to this? All right, good. I put down two objectives from the POCD, and when I've been working on the website, it says the very first mission of the EDC as a committee is to deliver the plan of conservation and development. So I feel like if that's really our driving mission, then we should make sure that most of what we work on relates back to the POCD. So I went through, I'm sure there are other goals that are related, but two of the things I felt were important is the first goal, which really talks about attracting young households to maintain a demographic balance. So the communications that we're doing externally to try to get people to visit here, and it's right there in the tagline, you'll live it here. That clearly has been driving a lot of the work of the EDC. So I figured we should put that there. The other goal I pulled out from economic development was to provide an array of services and activities to make the town economically sustainable at the local level while enabling it to compete at the regional level. So here's that whole communication within and without, bringing people to town and promoting what we have going on. So I want to continue to just make sure we're looking at the POCD and reminding ourselves of our goals. We're also, Wayne mentioned at the last planning meeting, we're getting geared up for the next plan of conservation and development. And I was going through the economic development chapter, and I feel like there are a couple topics that are missing. So maybe we'll schedule in the future one of our meetings to really just dive into the plan of conservation and development and talk about the last one and where we feel like we've made progress, and then goals for the future so that we can have some input into the next POCD. All right, does anyone have any questions or comments? Please, I'll share this with everyone, and
Sure.
please feel free to email.
I can assure you that the EDC will have plenty of opportunity to comment on the upcoming plan. The Planning Commission, typically when they work on a new plan, we reach out to all the boards and commissions and committees and ask for their input, not only on how we did on the current plan, but how we could better serve their needs in the upcoming plan. So you will have an opportunity to weigh in. We have actually started these discussions in a very preliminary fashion so far, but there will be outreach. There is always outreach in this, and at present we will do this, like I've said in the Planning Commission, we will do this in what we call an inductive fashion at first. In other words, we just take ideas, we take comments, whatever, we put them all up on the board. We don't discount anything, we just, and then once we, and that will basically encompass all of 2021. Starting in 2022, we'll start to become more deductive. We will, at the end of the day, you can't put everything in a plan. It's just, that's kind of what happened the last go around, and it almost collapsed under its own weight. When I was brought on to rescue the plan back in 2014, it was literally 215 pages long. It was literally and physically going to collapse under its own weight, and it just, it can be very hard at times to make those kinds of decisions. Let me assure you that will not happen this go round.
I think that's a really good observation, because we talked a lot about that in the past. There were so many goals that it was almost overwhelming. I'd rather get 3 great things done than not address any of the 50 that were set forward, So I think being broad is good, but prioritizing and some focus is also really helpful. So.
Sure. The best example I give folks is when we wrote the sustainability chapter, which I'm not particularly proud of. Yes, we never really had done that before, but at least we have one. It initially had something like 27 strategies. And you know, and if you have a plan with 27 strategies, you don't have a strategy. It just so it just had to be pared down, and you know, when you do that process, someone's going to be unhappy at the end of the day, but that's just how it has to work.
I agree. Yeah. So more to discuss on that as we move forward. And I have some real questions for the EDC. You know, as we look at economic development, how do we measure success? We can look at empty stores, and I know that was what prompted Dan back in the beginning to get this committee going, because you know, after the 2008, things were looking a little dire here in the depot, and New Preston had some availability as well. So we've seen that great turnaround, and we feel the life and energy, we see the traffic, but I want to try to explore, how do we measure that? What do we use as our gauge to really look at the health? Obviously, no empty stores is great, but I feel like there's probably some other things we can be looking at, and so we can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, the Planning Commission always looks at this in terms of measures, plural. I mean, you know, storefronts are a measure, but you know, we planners always have the big picture in mind, and you know, the reality is that retail accounts for less than 10% of the jobs in the town. So it's, you know, although it's the most visible measure of our economy, it's probably not the largest measure of our economy, locally speaking. So, you know, I mean, you know, almost 40% of the jobs in this town are tied to education. I mean, so,
Right.
you know,
Well,
I mean, like I said, you know, jobs is another measure of an economy. It's like most people would be shocked to learn that there are actually 1,600 payroll jobs in the town of Washington.
which is a lot.
That's a lot for a small town. So
It is a lot. It is a lot.
and that's a hard number. That comes from the Department of Labor. That's not something I made up from a survey. So, and
Yeah.
you know, and there are other things that touch issues that are sentimental, and there are other, you know, economic sectors that have magnifying factors, like, you know, arts, of course, arts and culture, agriculture, you know, but then again, you know, we tend to like to call ourselves a rural community, yet, you know, less than 1% of the jobs in this town are in agriculture. And 20 years ago, less than 1% of the jobs in this town were in agriculture. You know, the town of Farmington and the town of Newtown have more farms, more land in agriculture, more acres in agriculture than Washington does, yet we think of them as bedroom suburban style communities. And somehow we're rural, and they have more farming activity than we do. So
That's interesting.
you have to think about it from, you know, this is the Planning Commission's job. We have to take the 30,000 foot view, and a lot of times we have to open up that door of, you know, the difference between what the town is and what we think the town is, because those aren't necessarily always the same thing.
Right. Well, thank you, Wayne. And yeah, we'll use obviously the data as we move forward and set some of our goals and strategies. And it's interesting to learn what the actual numbers tell us. Sometimes the perception is not always the reality. So.
And we get another big yardstick at the end of the month. I don't know if all of you know, but we get the census numbers on April 30th. So
it's exciting, and I'm curious to see how things have moved. I mean, that's a once every 10 years number. So here we go. Yeah, I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, we don't get the total breakdowns, but we'll get the top line. We'll get how many people are here and how many housing units are here. So
Could we make sure, Wayne and Michelle, to include that in our next meeting, or
count on it.
I'm sorry?
Count on it.
Okay.
All right, so I'm putting down on the next agenda new census info.
Yeah, and this is the summary numbers from is this?
The 2020. I don't know, Dan, all of a sudden I didn't hear you, but it is it will be the summary numbers of the 2020 census. So count, we'll make sure you're on the agenda and on the calendar. All right, Wayne?
Yep, it will be, I know the planning commission, we can't wait to see it, so.
All right. All right, I want to move us on. That was a great conversation about the plan of conservation and development, but I want to move on because I have one more thing I wanted to share, and then we have a couple of other reports. So let's just, I'm going to share my screen again. This is some of the survey data from the survey we did almost a year ago, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time with it. Again, I will email this to you. I'm going to post it on the website. I just didn't want this data to get old. Priorities changed and we just sort of shelved this, but I wanted to share at least the demographic part. So I'm going to just quickly summarize just so you know what this was. This was a survey that was put together by the NOW initiative, the small committee that occasionally does work with the EDC. And it was really Julie King who was driving a lot of this because we were really looking at young families and housing. So we put together a survey. It was 42 questions, which if you know, that's a lot of questions for a survey. It took a while to answer it all. And we had 166 people respond, which is really a tremendous amount of data. Just so you know, it went to Region 12 parents. So all of these, we were surveying young families already. It didn't go to anyone else. It was emailed to these families in Region 12. And just so you know, 39% of the respondents live in Washington. So the rest were from Roxbury and Bridgewater. What we were looking at is the decisions people were making to move here, because we were really trying to figure out where did they get their information, what were they looking for, what were the parameters. So that was what we were looking at. And I'm just going to run through, I put together, and it's dense. I'm sorry. I always think of making things dense so that when you print it, it's less paper, but visually it's not maybe always the best for a PowerPoint presentation. But what I'm going to take a look at are just sort of the demographic, that people information. I'm not going to go into part 2 of this would be looking at housing, because a lot of the questions were, how many bedrooms were you looking for? How big did you want your house to be? And we're not going to look at that today. So the first chunk of data that we're looking at is just who answered this survey. And they were households with children. They averaged 2.4 children per household. And the children were mostly 0 to age 11 when they moved here. I am so sorry. I'm gonna let you read this. I'm gonna go close my door because it's vacuuming. Sorry. So we also asked about what their occupations were. And you can see from the data that there were a lot of different things, but the top 5 were financial, education, healthcare, small business owners, and licensed trade. And you can see all the other answers there. We asked about their income, and 66% earned between 51 and 151,000 annually. And that data is right here in the lower right-hand corner. You can see all of the respondents. And also 69% of the people who bought a house in the region bought a house in the price range of between 100 and 500,000. So I see Julia put on her reading glasses. Let me see if I can zoom that in a little. I get it. Make it a little bigger. So one thing that I just wanted to point out, which we've learned about as we're looking at our affordable housing, is that the median house price in Washington went from 388,000 in 2018 to 840,000 in 2020. So the median house price just jumped outside of the range of a majority of the people, the young families' households. So it's definitely something to keep our eyes on. Okay. All right, and so that was income and the price range. So that's the data. All right, moving forward, we asked about why they chose to move here, why they left, and what they were looking for. So the big ones were quality of life and schools. Some people had a change in their family status, which drove them to move, or they outgrew their house. Those were some of the highlights. And that question, the actual raw data is there in that chart on the right. We also asked about some of their preferences for, they preferred small shops and local restaurants over chain stores and restaurants. So they liked that small community feel, which I thought was pretty interesting. So we asked them about how important some of the following factors were when they made their decision to move here. And I'm just going to bring these three charts. So you can look at the things that were really important to them over in the upper right hand corner. Open space and trails was really important. Parks and playgrounds and activities for the family. So those were all really strong in their decision making. If you look over on the left, quality of the public schools was off the charts, but you have to remember that we surveyed the public schools. So obviously that would make sense. If we did a survey, we did ask for the survey to go to the private schools as well, but it just never really happened. I want everyone to remember that this survey went out in May, so we were 2 months into the pandemic, and some people feel that that's why we got the great response we did, because everyone was home, and had time on their computer. But the schools were also closed and scrambling to figure out what to do. So the private schools actually never got the survey out. There's one more page of information about factors involved in moving here. We asked about the commute that they have, and you can see it's actually pretty evenly split in all the different categories, but it was about a third were 20 minutes or less, and about a third were 45 minutes or more. 45, between 20 and 45 minutes, and then a third 45 minutes or longer. And they almost all commute by car. I'll be interested to see if we see a change in this. So many people ended up working from home during the pandemic and found that they could. So we're hoping that is going to allow people to consider moving here that might not have before because the commute was too long. But as you can see, people are willing to commute pretty far to live here. And then we asked how important the distance to work was, and 78% felt that it was important. And they also felt that being close to the schools was important. So those were some interesting points. We asked about what other towns they looked at when they were making their decision to move here. And if you can see that they were looking at the whole area, pretty evenly spread. Another thing that we thought was kind of interesting that we found out is we asked how they knew about the area. 40% grew up nearby, 30% had family or friends who lived nearby, and 15% worked nearby. So that was most of the people moving here with young families were already pretty familiar with the area. The last question I have here highlighted, which I think is also interesting and maybe not true to other demographics, but 74% of the families that moved here moved from Connecticut. So they were already in Connecticut. 10% were New York, and then the remainder, what's left? 16? The remainder were from out of those two areas. So our young families are actually coming, or families with children who are putting their children in school come from Connecticut, and 26% come from towns touching Washington. So they're coming from really close. Those people are probably moving here just to get into the schools because they're already in a very, very local, they're already in the region. And that was it for the data that what I pulled out of the 42 questions that we had was all of the information about the people, their background, and why they chose to move here. The next chunk of questions really talks mostly about the type of housing they were looking for, which was very relevant to the project that we were working on before, but we are not now because we have no houses available. So, yeah.
Did you guys do any crosstabs by like number of years since they moved here? So like 5, 10, 15, 20, to see like if this changed at all as far as how long they've lived here? And are you planning to do this again now that we've had such a turnover?
We haven't talked about doing it again, but I think it would make sense. I don't know, if we want to do it right away, if we want to wait, I would probably let things settle. I'm really curious to see how many of the people who moved here or lived in their second home for COVID stay here. So I think doing something like this again in the fall or sometime next year would be useful. Julie did say she could set up some crosstabs, and one of the things, let's see, we were talking about how long people have lived here. The people who answered the question, thought I included that. I think I just put it in the summary.
And I thought it said it was like within 20 years.
Yeah, so the people who answered the question had lived here for anywhere less than a year to more than 20 years. So yeah, we could go back. I'm pretty sure Julie said we didn't set it up that way, but we could go back and say, of the people who have lived here for 2 years or less, how did they answer? And we could mine that for certain data. It was interesting because we put the questionnaire together before COVID. We got it out at the beginning, and we had no idea what that was going to do to our housing. So post-COVID, we might want to change some of those questions. Although then it makes it harder to compare, but the game has really changed. So we'll have to think about how, what we, I think running the same survey to new people would be very interesting, because we might find that they're working from home, they're coming from farther. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the change in that data.
At this point, all of the data are helpful, because the entire the demographics of the town are really in flux now because of the pandemic, as we all know. I mean, we went from a town with 3,000 plus full-time residents and 1,000 plus part-time residents to a town with 4,000 plus full-time residents. and what we don't know is, once we're starting to creep towards a sense of normalcy, it should get more normal-ish as we go along. And the big question, especially for the Planning Commission, as we're thinking of the next plan, is, of those 1,000 plus people who camped out here and even took the plunge and put their kids in our schools and are now working from home, how many decide to stay here and how many decide to revert to their prior lifestyle. And the number is clearly somewhere between none of them and all of them. It's somewhere in between. But if it's at one end, that's one plan. If it's the other end, it's another plan. So, and I don't know if we have it in us to write two plans. So that's going to be, as we get any of this data, we need to share it as soon as possible, because, we're going to be, in some regards, kind of writing the demographic part of this, our next POCD, on the fly. It's just, it's not something that we really like to do, but it's something we're going to have to do.
It's a challenge. I was thinking about this a lot. Well, as we've been working on the affordable housing plan, but then going back and reviewing some of this data. And actually, Wayne, this is a kind of a good question for you. One of the goals of the EDC coming out of the Plan of Conservation and Development was to help attract young families to our town, so that to keep some sort of demographic balance. Well, the houses are all sold for the most part. And where did I write this down? We have now 38% of our housing stock as part-time seasonal, which has doubled in the last 8 years. So we have less housing of, less of our houses are being used by or occupied by actual residents. Now, post-COVID, maybe some of those people will decide to stay here. And how do we measure that? Besides, the ACS data, I find it's very, well, we've talked about this, is
Worthless.
not hugely accurate, because they survey a couple of households and then they extrapolate from that. So I was just wondering, internally, what could we do to sort of measure the residency? Do we look at how many people register to vote here, for example? I actually did a chart, I did an analysis. I don't want people to laugh at me, but of the trash, and looked at our total municipal waste collection pre and post COVID to see, and there was a 10% increase. I was expecting it to practically double because everybody was here, but still a 10% increase. I mean, somebody had suggested that measuring your trash is a way to gauge how many people are living here. So, I mean,
you're on the right track.
What?
You're on the right track. What we're going to be doing, and what I've done in the past, is that there are a lot of local sources of data that are very helpful when you overlay them. It's the town hall has a lot of local data that are actually really helpful, and it's hard data. It's compiled by people we know. It's written down on index cards. It's as reliable as it gets. And by looking at things like, even how much trash are we producing, to how many building permits are being filed, to how many properties are being subdivided. I mean, all of this stuff can help to give you a clearer picture. And there are better sources of extrapolated information than the American Community Survey. The Yukon Data Center, which I think they now call the State Data Center, is much more reliable than the ACS, because they actually break down their extrapolated data by township. So you actually get town level stuff that's actually not just sampled from one or two households like the ACS does. But I think for us to get a better picture, we're going to have to go local. I mean, that's the best answer I can give you. It's like, and no one individual stat like trash or building permits, whatever, is going to give you a clear picture. But if you pile them all up, we're going to get a better we're going to get a better sense of what's going on. And it's more reliable data because it's local and it's hard numbers. And, you know, we can also overlay that with our anecdotal observations, which should not be discounted. Anecdotal data is actually very helpful in a small community. So it's going to be all those things, Michelle. And so basically what I'm telling folks is the more local it is, the more you should believe it.
All right, well, good. So we'll keep thinking about how we can measure what has happened with our residents pre and post COVID, and because that'll be important as we move forward with our planning.
Sure. And plus, you know, remind people again about the census. The census was taken before COVID. So that the census data are not really going to reflect the influx of people to the town, because
Right.
the census had to be measured as of April 1st, 2020. Even if the surveying and the questions were answered in the summertime, the questions always were, as of April 1st, what was your status? And that's just the law. That's how it had to be done.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see when the data comes out. We're looking forward to that. This was a lot of data here on this survey. I will share it with you. And if you have questions, please ask. But I just wanted to, I didn't want that to sit there for too much longer. I want to move on quickly because we have Julia here, just to get a quick update on the services directory. It's moving along.
Sure. Well, it'd be very quick.
Good.
So we're probably getting it back from our developer at the end of the week. And then we're going to populate the directory with, I think it's between 70 and 90 service businesses. So I would say in 2 weeks it will be up and running. And I know that Fran and Lisa have discussed doing some sort of postcard or a big push to businesses to get other service businesses to get on board on the directory. We're going to have a form that they can fill out to get submitted, have their business submitted. In addition to the contact information, we're asking them whether their business is based in Washington and also whether they're a registered business with the state of Connecticut, just to sort of vet the folks who are trying to get on the directory. But Michelle already looked through the list. We had the list that was a big chunk of the service businesses came from the WBA website, so we grabbed those. And then on top of that, businesses that we're aware of through, you know, Instagram, the work we're doing, especially in the home sector, designers, interior designers. There were a lot that we found who may have been newer to town and that we came across. So we've added them as well. So Michelle went through everything and ticked off. There were just a couple who aren't in business anymore. Most are, if anything, there are more service businesses now than ever. And yeah, so it will be a great way for service businesses to get recognized and also for homeowners to find them, you know, especially new people in the area. I think the home and garden section will be very robust, construction, repairs, all of that as people move up and need work done on their homes. So, but we have everything in there. We have salons and spas, professional services, and what we've done, and everyone can see once we have that draft up, I think we'll leave the draft up, not connected to the menu, so that it won't go fully live, and then we could pass it around and get people's feedback. But basically there are overarching categories like professional services, and then there are subcategories like accounting, legal, business consulting, so that and there's a search box, so it'll be easy for folks to find businesses. And it's going to be a true database, so it will be easy to update in the future. And when we get submissions, we'll review them. We'll consult with Michelle as to whether this is a real business or not. And it's a little trickier with service businesses. Obviously, restaurants and shops, we have a great handle on whether they're legit and really there. But with service businesses, you know, we just have to be a bit more vigilant. It's not that we're recommending these businesses per se, you know, everyone needs to do due diligence when they hire someone. But we also have an icon for whether they're a WBA member. So that's sort of like the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. Most of them are. And this is also a good way for the WBA to reach out to those who aren't a member and bring them up to becoming a member. So we'll also have a link to the WBA website. And I think it'll be a great addition to have this on Explore. We have a rudimentary list of service businesses right now, but it's more geared toward that, you know, tourism, spas, where are the banks, realtors, the obvious service businesses. Now we're going to add this other layer of home businesses and professional services. So I think it'll be a value. We should talk about the communications plan for pushing this out through the selectman's office, through our monthly e-news. You know, I think it makes sense to have an announcement. And I know that Fran and Lisa want to do a postcard and sort of get the word out to people who may not know about this. So yeah, so we're making progress, and by the next meeting, it should be fully vetted and up and running.
Thank you, Julia. You know, you were talking about, I forgot we had talked about once it's kind of up, then we need to not only promote it, but solicit the rest of the service people that we missed. And let's talk about doing some kind of mailer to promote Explore again, to remind the community that the events calendar is there, and to solicit, to let them know about the services directory and to solicit those services. Because I think, you know, I might have just enough in the budget left to do a postcard mailer. I have to look and see before this fiscal year ends. And that might be a great way. We've been talking for months about doing another push for Explore. And I would love to do that in time for the summer season, because, you know, people are going to be wondering what's going on, and people are, you know, the events calendar is the place to go. So we want to remind people.
Also when does the next print e-news go out, print newsletter go out? Because this would be a good, you know, announcement to have on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, good reminder. So the due date for articles is May 12th. It goes in the mailboxes the first week of June.
Oh, okay, great. So it's good timing. Even if it's not 100% there, it's still a way to get in front of people without an additional cost. Just by
absolutely. No, that's great. We should make sure we put in a blurb about the directory and Explore in the print newsletter. Good idea. Thank you, Julia. Does anyone have questions about the services directory? All right, great. Hopefully by next meeting, it will be live. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Julia. It's been a project long in the making. We have reports here. The selectman is not here, but we do have Fran from the WBA. But before you go, Fran, I just want to make sure everyone knows that the WBA and Parks and Rec and myself are putting together the block party for the first Friday, June 4th. There will be a band in front of Town Hall, and businesses are in the depot welcome to stay open, and we have some businesses that aren't in the depot coming to set up either at Judy Black or elsewhere. We're just getting the planning off the ground, but I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that because we're excited. And Fran, do you have anything else to share?
I don't really have anything else to share. I think it's been covered in various other things, but my understanding is the businesses will be closed for the block party, that they won't be open. I mean, I wasn't at the meeting, but I did talk to Liz.
Okay, I think it's up to them if they want to stay open. Lisa was talking about staying open, but she was going to set up ice cream outside.
Right.
But if somebody wanted to come in and get a sandwich or something, they were going to be open, I think. Maybe not until 8, but maybe just extended.
Sure. So, I mean, that's to be determined. But
yeah. The idea though is to have everything set up outside.
Right.
what take for whatever. Mostly it's just gonna be people milling around. And
I mean, the
thankfully
governor-
it's spread out.
The governor has, I mean, it's announced this morning that it's anticipated that in May, any prohibitions outside will be eased and gone, but that mask requirements inside will be maintained.
Oh, that's interesting, because in our meeting just last week, we were talking about social distancing and masked, but allowing food and drink. So people just relying on people to separate themselves. And the pantry is going to be set up with, I think they were planning on giving out pretzels or something, you know, soft pretzels down on one end. And then so there's plenty of space for people to spread out, but we'll follow the governors, you know, we'll keep our eyes on that.
It's definitely an easement unless there's some change in terms of the number of cases of COVID.
That's fantastic. So our plan is to be safe and to follow whatever guidelines are in place at the time, but planning is moving forward for the event. So that's great. Hey, Fran, I know the executive committee met a week or two ago. Is the WBA plan, did you guys talk at all about getting meetings, the quarterlies up again?
Are you talking about the socials and things? I mean,
yeah.
Not at that point, but the executive committee will be meeting more regularly. So, I mean, you know, at that meeting's time, the restrictions were still in place, and you know, not really knowing what to anticipate. So that's something. I mean, there's certainly an interest in it, but that's something that will be discussed.
It might be nice maybe at your next meeting to, while the weather's nice, to maybe plan a social, because the WBA hasn't had one of those in over a year. So to maybe an outdoor one, even just to try to get one on the calendar, because it's been a long time.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone else have anything they would like to share?
Michelle,
Yeah.
Michelle, I understand that there has been, or there is in process, a change of ownership for the pantry.
Oh, I forgot to mention that. So yeah, Michael and Nancy are, from what it appears, I haven't spoken to him in person, but I read the letters online, it's retiring. And Zoe and
Keith
the chef are taking over. I didn't know if it was an actual
It
sale
happened
yet.
last week. It happened as of Thursday last week.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. I forgot to mention that.
And do you know, Fran, whether it's a change in ownership or is it a change in management with them stepping into the background?
In terms of the business itself, it's a change of ownership.
It is.
In terms of the building, Michael and Nancy will continue to own it.
Yes. Okay.
But they will be Keith and Zoe are the owners of the business.
Okay. Very, very good. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That clarified. I wasn't really sure exactly how that was working. So they sold the business, but not the building. Okay.
I just wanted to share with everyone, we had I guess you'd call it a kickoff meeting. The First Congregational Church is partnering with the PO to have a Friday night music series starting June 11th and going through the summer with local musicians to just, you know, play like an hour, and the PO will have food and soft drinks available if people want to bring their own other beverages, that would be fine. And just to have a little life up here on Friday nights with some music and some camaraderie. So if you would, we'll get the word out, but if also, you know, musicians, we have quite a few in mind, but if you know some musicians who would be willing to play a set outside, shoot them over to me and we will get them on the list. They won't be paid, but we'll probably pass a hat. If this is successful enough, we'll try to get some sponsorships for next year to pay for the musicians, but we're really excited about it. And it should be a lot of fun, kind of a little Tanglewood on the Green kind of a thing.
And Robin, that means that Washington Friends of Music will not be in place this year.
I haven't heard anything from them.
Okay.
If they are, you know, we wouldn't I don't think we would be competing with them in any way.
Well, the only reason that I say that is that they would normally be end of July, early part of August,
Right.
if they were in the house.
Right.
The fact that you're doing it out of the house, and it has always been a curiosity of mine of whether or not they were going to try to do it, so to speak, on the steps.
Mhm.
But anyway, I think you've answered the question, because I haven't heard anything from them that would suggest they were going to do it either.
I mean, Wayne might know, but I certainly haven't heard anything.
I don't know. I can tell you in terms of the professional music world, it's they're all basically looking towards the fall, realistically.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
orchestras are looking, the orchestras, the operas, the Broadway, all of them, they're all really looking towards a regroup, come after Labor Day. I mean, the
Okay.
Bushnell is actually scheduled in a full season starting next fall. So have most of the orchestras and chamber fest. The summer is going to be tough. Things may get well enough, but the problem is that, it's already in a lot of those cases already too late to schedule those events. It's just the lead time you need for a summer festival, whatever, it's already passed. So, and then-
Okay.
You
Thank you.
mentioned Tanglewood though, Robin, and Tanglewood is having a season this summer.
Well, they're outside, right? Ish.
I mean, well, the shed, but I mean, it's limited in terms of attendance, but they have a full schedule in place.
That's why I think these little pop-up music events will be really successful this
Right.
summer, because there's just not a lot else going on. So I think hopeful that should be a nice addition to the summer offerings. Any other comments or questions? Anything else to share? All right. Well, thank you all, for those of you who came. Thank you for showing up. That was good. We're at 11:03. That's pretty right on target for us. So thank you so much. I'll get this information out, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
5 o'clock in May.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes,
Michelle.
5 o'clock.
Yeah,
Yes.
Michelle, also, this is unrelated to this totally, but sign me up for the Green Fair, my usual grunt role. So, okay.
Hey, Wayne, I had an idea, and I should run it by you. No, I think it's okay. We were really talking about how to spread things out, to just keep it COVID safe and stuff. And we're thinking about maybe putting the artwork in the meeting house with the books. What do you think? Around the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm thinking vertical surfaces. We would probably have to put like scrims up on all the windows. I mean, because you have
You don't think those racks could fit under the sconces? I haven't measured how high the sconces
I
are.
don't know. Yeah, and plus you also have to worry about the trip factor too. The aisles on the sides are not really that wide, although
They're wider than what I had in the beginning.
yeah, I was just gonna think they probably are wider than what we actually had in the meeting in the parish house.
Parish
So,
house, yeah. Think
I
about it.
have to look at it, but I mean I think it's probably not a bad idea. I mean, or we could just or we could split the difference. We could put the vast majority of it in the meeting house and put what we consider the nicer stuff in the parish house.
Oh, I thought you were going to go opposite and like leave me with the junk as usual.
And no big. I'm just thinking that there's more space in the meeting house. So, and plus, when we're selling books by the pound, I mean, literally.
I just am trying to spread the people out, and some
Sure.
people come. Well, and some people come just for the artwork, and so to get
Yeah.
them over to the books might be a good idea. But yeah, it's just looking at the space. I just don't want to cram as much stuff into that room.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah, I'm game.
Think about it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we do both. I don't know. Okay, I'm fine with it.
Think about it. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you can think of any real drawbacks, let me know. But
No, I can't think of any other than trying to, the artwork's going to show up in one place, it's going to have to be schlepped to another, but that's okay.
So
It's
the
not like,
books.
it's not as bad as books, right? It's like,
My only fear is it might get a little dark in there.
I wouldn't cover the windows.
Oh, okay.
I would try not to, because we also want to try to keep it as open as possible. We're still
Right.
trying to be COVID safe. I
Right.
know it's
Mhm.
not until July, but
Right.
my vote would be to try not to cover the windows. Because there's more wall space. It's a bigger room. So we,
Well, that's true.
even if we turn those racks sideways, I don't know, we'll talk.
Well, there's
Yeah,
the whole front too, right?
yeah, I'll take a peek. And let me just, I'm having trouble, picturing it in my head, but let me just walk around the meeting house. And,
It's so radical.
yeah.
Change. Oh my God.
This is Washington. All change is bad. Yeah.
I know,
Okay.
it's right. I don't want to mess.
Yeah.
Because last year wasn't enough.
Oh, I know.
Right.
We turned it upside down last year.
I know. So, well, that's fine. No, I mean, I like the idea. I mean, I'm always trying to cram it all into, I never have enough
I know.
vertical surfaces anyway. So it's like, it's so hard to stage this stuff. I'm still stacking it all on the floor, as it is. So the more I can get up and that where people can see it, the more we can sell.
Yeah. All right.
And
Well,
maybe if it's in the meeting house, it'll, it is the worship space. Perhaps it'll keep the brawling to a minimum.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that. It's like,
all right. Well, cool. I'm glad. Thank you so much, Wayne. We should probably head out though. We're being recorded. So.
all right, sorry.
You
That's
can
good.
edit it.
Yeah, just lop it off.
Yeah, I know. All right. Thank
All
you
right,
so
see you
much.
later.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.